All right, here we are, and we're back with this. This is a hose that's used for filling. This hose here is used for filling your AC system. What I've done is taken the gauge out, unthreaded it, and I'm going to thread in a fitting to pull a negative vacuum using this hose only. And it has, I have this here. It's a handheld pump. It's a vacuum pump, handheld manual vacuum pump. It has a gauge on it, and it does read inches in mercury. That's what I meant to say, a vacuum. Once I get it up to 20, between 20 and 25, that's 22 and a half, that's fine. I got to get that needle to go backwards all the way because it's a negative, and I have a hose that it came with. And it came with this ribbed fitting that goes into the hose. So I put that fitting in, and then it came with this little piece of hose here. And here's the gauge that I unthreaded. It's just your standard automotive filling hose with your gauge that tells you, when it's full. 30 pounds minimum, 40 is really good. 50, that's your low side pressure, PSI. So see how it unthreaded, right? I just basically unthreaded it. It's easier for me because I have this phone in my hand, so I unthreaded it first. And I went and I got this air coupling. This is like airline for like tractor trailer semis. It's just regular, I think it's 5/16 diameter, a 1/4 inch or 1/8 inside maybe. Anyway, it goes, you had to buy this separate. Like I bought this fitting, this elbow fitting, and it snaps in. And I think it does release if you want to take it out, but basically I just got like 1 foot of this hose, and basically it's going to go on the end of that. And this is going to thread into the, I already checked the threads. And it's right. I actually brought the gauge with me to the store when I bought this fitting, so I knew it's a fine thread, and it even comes with like a Teflon on it. So I actually threaded it in, and then I decided to make the video, so that's why it's a little bit. Some of the Teflon's actually been looks like it's been used. So I'm going to put it on my vacuum. This here goes. It's really hard to see. I wish I was outside. This just goes on the low side, which is the bigger one. It's pretty hard to screw it up because it only goes on at one. You don't want to try to hook this up to the high side. So that's your low side. Just a regular standard automotive hose. And you can hear it had a little bit of vacuum from over the winter. This thing hasn't, if you can hear that, this thing hasn't been charged. I just basically rebuilt the engine, and I had to unhook all the AC. So now that's on. And unhook all the AC. And that's what we're doing. We're going to thread that in. So watch this. We're going to see if we can get a negative vacuum on this. And then I'll unhook the hose. Basically, like you just saw me hook it on. You just saw me hook it on, and I'm just going to unhook it once it's at the negative pressure that I need. I'm thinking this might take up to 10 minutes to vacuum this down by manual. I'm just going to thread this in probably by hand and see if it'll work, right? This is all experimental here, because this is actually for brake bleeding. This vacuum pump is for brake bleeding, and the company actually says if you can come up with another idea for it, they might be interested. This hose actually has a check valve in it. I do have this threaded all the way down, so that little piercing, when you put the can on, it pierces the can, right, for your AC filling. But I threaded it down anyway, even though I think there is a check valve in here, and I made sure that it doesn't it doesn't leak out the other end. So that's all I'm saying. This is going to go on here. I'm trying to share with you. I'm just going to slide it on. This is all real simple. I'm sure it's not going to be a perfect seal like overnight or anything. This is all going to come off, and then you know, you can always hook this back up after. Even with that gauge, there's a negative on that gauge, on the gauge that threads in here, so I can hook it on real quick before I go to charge it and see if it's still got the vacuum in it. And then if it does, I know my system's good. It's not leaking right overnight, because they say you can test your system that way. For a leak is just to put a vacuum on it overnight, and then you would have your there is an actual, I could put a wrench on this thing. See how there's a, you know, I don't know what size wrench. Looks like it's about a 3/8 wrench, but I have it in there hand tight. It's in there pretty good. I just want to basically experiment. Yeah, and it looks like it is working. Look at that. You can see the gauge pulling. It's pulling a vacuum. And it's not a $200 vacuum pump. This thing was $120, so I bought a Leslie or a Lisley, L-I-S-L-I-E, I think it is. It's a rebuildable vacuum pump. You can rebuild this. But, yeah, I was going to go to Harbor Freight and pay $200 Canadian probably, because it was about $120 for the vacuum pump US, and it plugs into the wall and it runs for you, so you don't have to do this. But I mean, you know, sometimes your places where there is no power, you know, if I was outside I wouldn't even have hydro, right? If I was working on something where there was no hydro. But you can see I already got a vacuum on it. I got like 8 pounds vacuum on the sucker, so I'm almost halfway there, and I've just been doing it with you for like 2 minutes on this, but I got to get that gauge all the way around. I'm amazed that it's working. I knew it might take 10 minutes or so, because the AC system's pretty large, right? So I'm pretty impressed. I just thought of a way around it, because I don't do a lot of AC work, but I've never really been able to pull a vacuum, right? I've actually charged them when there's nothing in them, and atmospheric pressure. So, you know, it's not going to work perfectly. You can't really tell anybody, hey, I can do your AC and, you know, guarantee that it's going to work as good as it should, unless you have a vacuum on the system. Oh, wow. See, look at that. We're at, I can't tell you because we're in the shadows. Looks like we're at about 13 inches vacuum. And it seems to be holding with this retrofit setup. So I'm very happy with it. See, I'm just doing it with one hand. I can switch hands, which would be really nice for me. But yeah, you can see that I did that. I just took the gauge out. That's a $50 hose to fill your AC. And you can pay as little, I think, as up to $60 or $70 for one of these, a cheaper one. I just got a brand one, like a Milwaukee, right? It's a brand one. It's hard to see the gauge when I'm doing it with my left hand here. But basically, it's supposed to have a cup. It's a $20 adapter that you can hook up, and it's supposed to be used for brake bleeding. It pulls the brake fluid through off of the bleeder nipple when you're bleeding your own brakes by yourself. And the cup is supposed to capture the fluid. You're not supposed to ever let brake fluid go into this device, because it'll wreck it. Because I read the reviews, a lot of people were hooking it right up to the bleeder nipple and pulling brake fluid right into this thing. And obviously it's only meant to pull air through. See? And So I'll put it right up in my work light, because my work light is, I'm in a dark garage. It's been all winter that I've rebuilt this engine here. We're over 15, that's for sure. It's so hard to see, eh? But 15, 16, 17, almost 18. So we're almost at 18 already. And just since I've been talking to you, I'm talking to try to make the time go by smoother here, because it's not, I knew this would be a little bit of labor, but it saves your pocketbook, and it's very easy to store. And I don't have a manifold gauge set, which I would have had to buy two to hook up a vacuum pump properly. You know, with the high side, low side gauge and all that other stuff that you can get with it, you know, the long lines that go down to the floor, you know, so you can set your vacuum pump on the floor and have that thing purging away, eh? Like running high speed there. And but I'm not that financially interested in doing this forever here. Maybe I would recommend a vacuum pump. What are we at? 19 almost. It's at 8. This is 18, sorry. I just got to get it 4 more inch-pounds. And I'm probably going to maybe leave it overnight. But I know this AC system does... Uh-oh. I don't know what happened there. This AC system does not leak. Looks like you can set this or something. I don't know what that was all about. I set it down and it brought us backwards. So I guess be careful what you do. Maybe it has a release. Yeah, I read on the internet it's 22 inches ideally. You know what I'm going to do? Since you see what I'm doing anyway, I'm probably going to use both hands on this. And I'll come back in like probably 30 seconds to a minute. And I'll turn it back on and show you that I made it to 22. Okay? Sounds like a deal.